Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to Ma'am Ayu as our lecturers. Today, let me introduce myself. My name is Frisca Hamidah as the first speaker of government teams, and our second speaker is Amajida Trsika Meilia, and last speaker is Ariani Putri Herawati. So, our motion is online learning is better than in-person class. But before that, I would like to talk about the definition of online learning. So, according to Dabach and Ritland, online learning is a system open and scattered learning with using pedagogical device or tools education, which is possible through internet and network-based technology for facilitate the formation of the learning process and knowledge through its action and interaction means. If we look at this current situation, when coronavirus getting worse, it is appropriate for students to use online learning. Why? Because students safe from the coronavirus but still can get study or knowledge. And then this is accessibility of time and place because they can join in everywhere they want. And because of that, they can improve their student attendance also. Like I'm already told before that they can join in everywhere. Of course, their attendance will be good. And because of they always join the class. That's all for me. I will invite the first speakers of opposition team. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the chance that given to us. First, I would like to introduce our team. My name is Neneng Titi Hotimah. I'm as a first speaker of opposition team, and our second speaker is Clara Angel. Our third speaker is Icha Choirunisa and Nurul Aini. And the motion that was debated this time is online learning is better and in-person class. According to the first speaker of affirmative side, I will highlight several arguments that they talk about. First, about online learning system is suitable with this current situation, and the students will get the knowledge. But we found out that in the current situation, the application of online learning for reason of preventing the transmission of the coronavirus can be said to be ineffective. If schools are closed of direct learning, but places that have the potential to become gathering place are still open, such as tourist spot, mall, cafe, and others, then it is possible that students can still be infected if they go to this place. The first problem is the understanding on the subject materials. For example, the content of reading material delivered online may not be understood by all the students. This is because the material content is presented in the ebook from which presented per chapter. Teaching material in PPT form, in video form, student may be able to understand this material, but it is not comprehensive. Second is about accessibility. With online learning, the material obtained is not optimal because online learning is very dependent on signal and internet quota. This is very significant obstacle also the first because said that with online learning, student can access lesson anywhere and anytime. However, a research carried out by Nasruddin and Tanasi in 2020 confirms that some students live in remote rural areas that are not covered by the internet. In addition, their cellular network is sometimes unstable due to the geographical location, which is quite far from the signal coverage. This is also a problem occurs in many students who take online learning, so the implementation is less effective. Third, online learning system also had limitation in the learning controlling. The teacher are limited in conducting the control during online learning. This is caused the absence of a discussion forum menu in application use. Even if the menu exists, many students do not use it well. Another phenomenon, some students fill the attendance list at the beginning, but after that they are no longer active until the end of the learning. And some students even leave the online class to do other activity without being controlled by the teacher. This is mean that some students are not fully active from beginning to the end of the lesson. This online learning not only hard for the student but also the teachers because not all teachers are capable of operating computer or gadget to use in online learning activity. In some research results, there are some teachers who are able to use computer but in operating them to support teaching, their ability are still limited. Some of them are still unable in accessing any further related to internet network using various learning application and making media or own listen video. That's why we stand in-person class more effective than online learning. And now I invite the second speaker from the affirmative team to give their argument. Thank you.
Thank you for the first speaker of the SAFE team for the change. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amajida Trisca, second speaker from the Affirmative Teams. Well, the motion of our debate is online learning better than in-person class. I am, as the Affirmative Team, believe that this statement is true. The first speaker opposite team has tried to tell some problems of online learning. The first one is struggling in understanding the subject material. I have certainly disagreed with that. As we know, in the online learning system, we can review course material repeatedly, like record an explanation video from the lecture, and be able to watch or listen it again and again until we understand the content of the material. It means we have many ways to understand the material besides blaming online learning. Another point, according to student perception of using learning material, research by Hamidah proved that students find it easier to understand the material because in the online learning system, there are many sources that help students deepen the material. So I conclude that struggling in understanding the subject material is not the problem of online learning, but the problem of the student abilities themselves. Then about the online learning is dependent on the signal. Well, I will say that is one of the challenges beside the problem of online learning. Then we can through that challenge by expanding internet access for preparing in the digital 4.0 era like government do. So I will say that online learning can improve capabilities in terms of digital literacy while learning every obstacle to prepare for learning the digital revolution for or in the future era. Third, the first speaker of a side team also say the problem of online learning had limitation in the learning control. That will be the start point of the reason why online learning is better than in-person class. The first point is a student, that problem can be a form of self-improvement to become a responsible person. This is because students must learn to control themselves for the sake of increasing their abilities to become honest and disciplined people. Another point I can conclude from the online learning that we will gain several new skills. As from the affirmative first speaker explained, in online learning we have flexible and free accessibility of time and place. It means we have much time to our skills both in soft skill and hard skill. The soft skill we will gain as part of digital communication. Students might get additional flexibility, problem solving, critical thinking, and conflict resolution skill. Another skill to complete our online studies. To complete our online studies, we will need to become familiar with several digital learning tools, right? Like content management system, collaboration tools, and basic technical troubleshooting. Have experience communicating remotely, which is becoming more common in business throughout the world. In addition to this, we will also become familiar with programs such as Skype, Dropbox, Google Meet, and other programs. All those programs can provide us with tools we will need to be successful in workspace. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, online learning is important in the digital era 4.0, and the aim not only help to achieve the educational goals thing, but also can help to gain new skill that will be beneficial for many things in the future. I think that's all from me. Thank you. I will invite the second speaker from the opposite team to respond.
Good morning, and ladies and gentlemen, and thank you the second speaker government. Team said I'm Clara Angel from second speaker in negative team. I don't agree with the matter on delivery of the second speaker of affirmative team. The online learning can help to gain new skills. If online learning adds new skills, social fact, since online learning only add new problems for students, student must recoil a text twice or more. On this height, you don't have to learn the skills. According to first speaker, negative team online learning is only hard for student, need the teacher. Teacher find it difficult monitor for student how far student understand the material, are my students listening to the lesson, until it caused a new social problem. Thousands of students threatening failing class. The case from Cimahi, Jawa Barat, data from Cimahi City Education Department has total 722 elementary school students with a poor grade because not assigned the teacher. However, there are 722 who send our assignment to the teacher. If they don't finish their grade, they may failing at school, said Hajono as the head of Cimahi City Education Office. And teacher also try to come in the student home to settle education. However, there are those whose parents are not there who have moved and other obstacles. Online learning making another issue to mental health. According to study in University Indonesia, the title Social Involvement in the Student during this COVID-19 pandemic, the research participants including 637 students from Jabotabek and several other cities. They conclude students who study at home because of the pandemic are susceptible to social media present because the social media's coping mechanism in the case is a new source of stress. Also, according from Community Center of Indonesia Child or KPAI in Education, Retno Lisayanti, state there are 246 complaints from students and parents with complaint how many texts be given rather than face-to-face in class. KPI state also a number of the schools many students are depressed. A case from second grade in high school at Goa, Sulawesi Selatan, decide to suicide because struggling with online learning. With the connection, the facility of many assignment. Thank you. That's only my argument. I will invite third speaker of opposite team.
Okay, thank you. The second speaker of Affirmative Team, I'm Ariani Putri Herawati. To close this debate, I will give a conclusion. First is the statement of the first speaker of Affirmative Team. We disagree with the statement of the first speaker of Affirmative Team that states that the online learning not only helps for students, but also for teachers, because not all teachers are capable of operating computers or gadgets to use an online learning activity. Because as stated by our first speaker, Frisca, the online learning is right with the current situation because it makes students safe from this virus, but still can get the knowledge. This thing is very important for us because this is the main focus, which is our focus at this time. And the second, as stated by our second speaker, our learning is important in my learning and interest of digital resources. While learning every obstacle to prepare for learning the digital revolution 4.0. Even though online learning is depending on signal, but we can through the challenge by expanding internet access for preparing in the digital 4.0 era like government plans. Also, the second reason is online learning not only help to achieve the educational goals things, but also can help to achieve new skills that will be beneficial for many things in the future. As part of the digital communication, the students may get the additional flexibility, problem solving, critical thinking, and conflict resolution skills. In addition, the students will be more familiar with several digital learning tools, content management systems, collaboration tools, and basic technical troubleshooting. It also improves our ability to operating some applications related to the online learning such as Skype, Dropbox, Google Meet, Zoom, and other programs which provide the students need to be successful in a virtual workspace. And the second speaker of Affirmative Team states that online learning give a negative impact to students' mental health. We disagree with that statement because the existence of online learning can be a form of self-improvement to become a responsible person. This is because the students must learn to control themselves for the sake of increasing their abilities to become honest and disciplined people. So, the difficulties that exist in online learning are good for the common interest and good for advancing learning the digital revolution 4.0 in the future era. I will invite the second speaker of opposition team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Icha Choirunisa as the third speaker from the opponent team. As the opponent team, I totally disagree that online learning is effective than in-person classes. And now I will highlight some team affirmative team's points. So the first speaker from the affirmative team stated that online learning is suitable with this pandemic situation because it will make the students safe from the spread of the COVID-19 virus. But I totally disagree with that. As stated by our first speaker, that there are still many public places which are still open during pandemic situations, such as mall and cafe. On the contrary, this situation is used by students to go outside and hanging out in public places rather than attending online learning. As the example, in Sukabumi West Java, there are about 70 students were raided by municipal police as they were hanging out in public places such as mall and cafe in pandemic situation. So it is points out that even though face-to-face learning are not conducted, if the students went to these public places, the risk of students being infected by COVID-19 virus are still high. In addition, the first speaker from the affirmative team stated that online learning gives the flexibility for students to attend the class anywhere and anytime. But I totally disagree with that. As stated by our first speaker that online learning is depend on the signal and quota. Yes, that is true. In fact, not all students have a good signal since some students maybe live in rural areas, and then besides the students also cannot afford to buy quota because the price is quite expensive. And as we can see in the news, there are so many teachers who have to visit the students who live in rural area because they have like access to the internet or technology as schools remain closed during COVID-19 pandemic. So it points out that the application of online learning will not optimal, and the students who do not have adequate online learning facilities cannot be able to attend the class, which ultimately make the students' attendance in the class will be decreased. And then the second speaker from the affirmative team stated that online learning not only helps students to achieve educational goals, but it can also help the student to gain new skills that can be useful for them in the future. But I totally disagree with that. As stated by our second speaker, that there are still many students who do not have adequate online learning facilities such as laptops and smartphones. And as we can see in the news, there are some people who commit criminal acts by stealing a smartphone for their children to study online. So it is a sign that online learning will not run optimally, and the lack of online learning facilities can have an impact on decreasing students' learning motivation, which ultimately makes educational goals not achieved. In addition, how can students acquire new skills while the tasks given by the teacher are numerous? And as stated by the Indonesian Child Protection and Commission or KPAI, during study from home, they had received a lot of complaints from students from various regions who complained about the severity assignments that had to be done with narrow deadline. And however, the number of tasks doesn't make the students' skills increase. Instead, the students will feel exhausted and tired until there is no lessons they remember. And they only do assignments just as a formality to fulfill their obligation as a students. Okay, maybe that's all from me. And the conclusion of our team's argument will be delivered by Nurul Aini.
Alright, thank you, Icha. My name is Nurul Aini, so I will continue to elaborate why we as opposition team don't think that online learning is better than in-person classes. As our first speaker has been stated, online learning not only hard for students but also for teachers. I totally agree with that. There are many teachers who have not mastered technology and various learning applications. This affect on the learning process that becoming monotonous because it only use WhatsApp as a media to give assignments and materials. Another obstacle faced by teachers is the character or behavior of students who are difficult to monitor because the learning process is carried out at home, so it is difficult for teachers to monitor the progress of their students in the learning process. Unlike when studying in class, teachers can directly monitor student learning activities, so the learning process becomes more effective. And also, our second speaker stated that studying online for a long time has an impact on the mental health of students. I totally agree with this argument. A new study from Centers for Disease Control or CDC shows that children who study online at home are at a higher risk of mental health problems. Beside of the burdensome tasks of students as conveyed by the second speaker, another cause of students experiencing stress and emotional changes is because they are constantly at home for a long time. As we know, children and teenagers should have time to play outside and socialize with their friends. If this continues, it will be very dangerous for the mental health and emotional development of students. So, with those arguments, we as opponent team strongly disagree with this motion that online learning is better than in-person class. Online learning is not the right solution, but instead adds new problems in education, which are not all students have facilities for online learning, and there are many students are unable to understand the learning delivered virtually, and also the mental health disturbances as the result of pressure in undergoing online learning. We know that during the current pandemic, it forces students to do online learning. But in practice, there are so many obstacles and problems that make online learning ineffective compared to face-to-face learning or in-person class. That's all from me. Thank you.